Hello, everyone. I wanted to make a video in which I talk about this module, which includes Charles Hartshorne's Time, Death, and Eternal Life, and Hans Jonas's Immortality and the Modern Temper. Of course, there are videos on the Canvas site for both of these readings, but I thought maybe trying to put things in perspective for the module might help, just conceptualizing, like, why are we reading this? In what context are we reading this? Why did I choose these? And, why do they go together? Well, I think they go together in an obvious way. They both make central use of this metaphor of the book of life. And it's important to see that they conceive of it differently in the details. But it's interesting that both of them reach for that metaphor of the book. There are significant differences between them, but those should become clear just through reading the essays. But the context, well, the context is that this part of the course follows the last part of the course, and the last part of the course was Plato's Phaedo and Paul Landsberg's The Experience of Death. And I consider both of those to be great works, Landsberg and Plato, but to be very ambitious attempts to establish a full-blown notion of immortality, a full-blown notion of an afterlife, of not only the immortality of the soul, but the continuing life of the soul, the continuing career of the person in some form, in some further life. I mean, if we think of Plato's Phaedo, the whole thing starts with Socrates' claim that the philosopher looks forward to death because it's only in death that the philosopher gets true knowledge. Well, of course, that assumes that there's some experience after death, that there's a richness and satisfaction to life after death, in Plato's view. Paul Landsberg's view of death, I think, in part, is a rejection of Plato's view of the afterlife. That is, that we saw that in Landsberg that he thought that Plato missed it because he didn't see what the human being, the human person, really strives for, really demands, is a personal immortality, that is a preservation of the individual in their unique personhood in the afterlife, that Plato missed that. And obviously he had his reasons for thinking that, thinking why Plato missed it. As a Christian, he thought that everyone missed it before Christ appeared. But that's part of the Landsberg story. But each of these views, each of these conceptions, is a very ambitious idea of what life after death, or what survival of death, would mean. And the reason that I'm giving you these two articles here by Hartshorne and Jonas is because they offer a more moderate, scaled down, second best view of eternal life. The details will work out just what that view is. There's no reason to go into that here, but just to say that the context in which I read them and think about them is more moderate views of the possibilities of survival of death that are, again, they're scaled down. I mean, one of the things that there just has to be said about both of them is that the metaphor of the book suggests that there is no continuing experience after death, that in that respect Epicurus was surely right, but a rejection of the notion that we become nothing after death. That is really Hartshorne's biggest claim, is that we do not become nothing. at death, that we are still something, but that something is not a something that is the kind of something that continues to have new or novel experiences like you and I are having right now. And I think that Jonas would have to agree with that. So both of them are looking for something approaching eternity or immortality or survival of death, but they're doing it in a much more scaled down, less ambitious sense than the two great works that we've just read.